Hello and welcome to another spirits review here at Bespoke Unit. Today, I'll be drinking together with you Zacapa XO. We're going to be sampling the Zacapa XO today. You can find my review sheet on the website as well as our full written review. Zacapa rum comes from Guatemala. The Solera system that is used for the maturation of these precious liquids sit at an altitude of 2,300 meters above sea level. Therefore, the climate, the microclimate and the storing conditions for these rums are rather particular and make for a very slow maturation. I mentioned the word Solera system, which some people might know from Andalusia. For the rum in particular, this means that different casks of different age are being used for the assemblage or the final blend of these rums, whether it's the 23, the XO, or even the Royale. What differentiates the Zacapa XO from his siblings is that first and foremost, the fresh distillate is aged in ex-bourbon casks. So it's American white oak that has been used for the maturation of American bourbon whiskey. Afterwards, the maturation is prolonged in ex-oloroso and Pedro Ximenez sherry casks. And finally, and this is where the XO truly shines, an extra step of maturation is included in the process because the liquid is then transferred to French oak barrels that have previously been used for the maturation of cognac. The bottle of Zacapa XO is rather distinct with this drop-like shape, a wonderful ornate golden band up here, and a rather sturdy and heavy cork to seal the bottle. I'm gonna pour a glass so we can get right to the tasting. Looking at the color of the Zacapa XO, it's a luscious dark walnut brown with a slight reddish hint to it and reflections of purple and burgundy red. The tears, the legs are very slow, thick, oily and heavy, so there's a lot of viscosity. Let's get to the olfactory sensations and the aromas of this precious liquid. A rich, earthy beginning. I sense some dried fruits, steeped fruits, like a combination of prune, figs, and dates. Just behind that is a gorgeous caramelized walnut quality that very much reminds me of an old Ron sherry, where you would get a lot of these deep, earthy, woody, and rather nutty dried fruit qualities. Still, there's some freshness to the nose as well. I get some orange peel, just a little bit of fresh lemon as well, and a rather juicy pink grapefruit note as well. As chocolate, bitter chocolate, a little bit of pipe tobacco, and towards the very back of the nose, I sense some of the more cognac-esque aromatics that give the olfactory sensation a bit more depth, a bit more oomph, more complexity and length. The nose of the Zacapa XO in comparison to the 23 is certainly more complex. There's more diversity, there's more depth, but another very interesting aspect is that the sweetness, the caramelized nuances that are very prominent in the 23 are rather tamed down with the XO. And I would assume that this is because of the prolonged aging and the impact of the French oak that adds a little more spiciness to it and more of the Ron emerge and come to the very front. So let's take a sip. It's like a whole world of taste sensation opens up. There's sweetness in the very front. There's bitterness. There's spice on the side of the tongue. I get a lovely salty minerality in the very back that adds just another layer of complexity. In terms of the retronasal expression and the aromatics that I sensed in the nose, also the taste is very much aligned with that. So there's bits of chocolate, a bit of that pipe tobacco, a very flavorful melange of espresso crema. There's dried fruits again, this time the dates and the prunes really shine. And towards the end of the sensation, the freshness emerges yet again and reveals some dried orange peel, then some cinnamon and a bit of cardamom is thrown in there for good measure as well. There is a distinct sweetness, but not overpowering, very balanced, as is the alcoholic quality. This one, as most rums from Zacapa, is at 40% ABV, a very well-rounded, creamy sensation that intrigues the palate. There's a little bit of everything. It all comes together very nicely. There's sweetness, there's spice, there's length, there's freshness, there is acidity and some tanninic bitter quality that gives the rum a lingering and rather long aftertaste. The finish is gorgeous. You could chew on this rum for half an hour easily, and you'll certainly find new aromatic qualities and taste sensations on your palate with every sip that you take. Speaking of sipping, I'd certainly recommend that you try this rum neat first. For me personally, the glass of choice is always a nosing glass like the one here that would bring the aromas to the nose in a perfect way. But for those of you who prefer your spirit with a chunk or a crystal clear block of ice, you would go for a double old-fashioned glass or a rather large rocks glass. Well, of course, the Zacapa XO makes for a delicious rum cocktail as well, whether it's a rum old-fashioned or a rum Manhattan. I would recommend a rather simple, very straightforward drink where the spirit, the base of the cocktail truly shines and is not overpowered by too many other components like fresh citrus or some very heavy aromatics like spice liqueurs. My preferred pairing with the Zacapa XO is bitter chocolate. It perfectly underlines the sweetness, and once you have a bite of that bitter chocolate and let it melt on your tongue, you will see that the flavor sensation of the XO starts to change because there's this interplay of the bitterness with a little bit of that cocoa from the chocolate, and then the cardamom, the cinnamon, and the dried fruits from the Zacapa start to intermingle with that, and it becomes a rather interesting combination. For all these cigar lovers out there, yes, Zacapa is an all-time favorite of cigar smokers, and the XO certainly makes for a perfect sip to go along with your favorite stick as well. I'm always a little cautious when it comes to pairing high-proof alcoholic spirits with cigars, in particular when they're rather old and have been matured in wooden barrels for a prolonged period, because there's a lot of tannins, there's some woodiness and some spice in the spirit, which can sometimes interfere with your smoking experience. Since the XO has a lot of sweetness, a lot of creaminess and depth on the palate, you could have it with a rather creamy, mellow smoke. For me, I would go for a Costa Rican cigar that brings some of those nutty, sweet, mellow, and rather creamy qualities to the table. As you all very well know, you will find a full rum guide on the Bespoke Unit website, as well as our recommendations for various rum cocktails, further information in regards to various spirits categories, all our cigar reviews, and pairing recommendations for various categories. Let's give it one more try. The nose has changed already, so now I'm getting more of the sherry characteristics. I'm getting more nuttiness. I'm getting more of the dried fruits. The dates are rather prominent right now. Again, an intriguing combination of bitter chocolate, coffee, and then towards the back, the spiciness and the oakiness really round off the palate. So, as you would expect, for a rum that sets you back roughly $100, the presentation is stellar. I already told you a little bit about the bottle. The box it comes in is beautifully looking as well. And given the price tag, it's certainly an occasional rum. You would probably have this for special occasions or as a present for your beloved ones if they're in for a rum treat. And for those of you who would really like to add an exclusive bottle to your home bar, the Zacapa XO is an excellent choice. Perfectly suitable as a cigar pairing with a piece of bitter chocolate or just by itself. That's it for today. I'll see you next time here at Bespoke Unit for another spirited review. Until then, be safe, pour yourselves a great glass of rum and enjoy the experience with my very best wishes and spirits.